Hello, I'm Dale, and I'm joined by Mike Jones. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Dale.
So we're going to be doing something this evening that's never been done before in the history of Josephine County, and no, it doesn't involve clothing and Mike. What it involves is this is media
Because
criticism.
that's not new, by the way.
No, it's a very old story.
Yeah.
Stop! I can't see. My eyes. This is the very first time. It's not the very first time that any media has been criticized in Josephine County, although that doesn't happen often enough for my liking. No, this is the first time that it's happened live, where there's one medium criticizing another medium. They don't like to do that to each other.
Well,
They
actually,
Go ahead.
I got to call you on that because we have done this once before, but this is kind of the focus of this particular episode of this show, and going in this particular direction. But we did do this one time before with KJO.
Where we played back the whole commissioner's call-in show and criticized it
Well, not
clip by clip.
not the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Well, we did cut it up and play clips.
Okay, all right. So as I was saying, this is nothing unique at all. And so, what? Why are they bothering watching? Okay, all right. So, look, once a month, the commissioners show up at Rotary Radio, KJO, and they get the soft approach by whoever. This time it's Chuck Benson. It's been Chuck in the past. And he sort of jumps into bed with them and talks about how wonderful they are. Look, do you guys need to be so relentlessly negative like Mike is? I try to talk him out of it. It doesn't do me any good. No, look, here's the point. I've never been in a situation before where it seemed like almost every decision made by county commissioners ended up being awful. I mean, we talked lately about the 5 biggest projects they've had and how the 5 biggest projects, the latest one being the $600,000 for software, how none of these are working out. And you just can't be wrong all of the time, right? Well, there are people in county government that are doing a good job, and we've talked with you about them, and we've had them on our show. So it's not really fair to say we're always negative. But when you hear somebody extolling their own virtues over and over and over again and bloating it way out of proportion, one of my favorite quotes from this evening, I look at my notes, really, the future is quite clear and promising. No, it's not. Well, maybe it's going to be promising, but it's not quite clear. And the perfect example is this drone project out at the Ivy Airport. Of course I want hundreds of jobs. Who wouldn't want hundreds of jobs? But when we first looked at this, we said, oh, well, that's kind of interesting, and tried to call the guys. They wouldn't answer their phone. And when they did, they hung up on people. Not just me, on everybody. Well, no, wait a minute. They've got 3 international headquarters where they don't answer the phone. Really? And then we found out that Larry Osborne was one of the biggest contributors to Simon Hare, and then Simon Hare said, well, it doesn't matter what they've done in the past. Really? This is not a good sign. And now we find out they're not doing any work at the airport. They're not paying the rent. We told them. It just didn't feel right. It's not because it didn't feel right because it came from Simon Hare. It's not that it didn't feel right because it was these commissioners. It just somehow, it seemed like a real estate scheme instead of a building drone scheme, right? And then the whole idea behind it, even if it worked, it reminded me of Herb Carter and Gerard Fitzgerald coming in with the sheriff saying, we want to plant listening devices around the county. Well, even if you thought that was going to lead to a lot of money, do you want listening devices planted around the county? Really? Is that a good direction? That's what this is. These are drones that are going to gather information about us and sell it to people and government. Really?
I think there's nothing that I think is more boring than the gathered information from the people of Josephine County. I just can't see that being very entertaining at all because you fly over my house pretty much most days, any time of the day, 365 days of the year. You're going to find that there's not a whole lot going on.
See, they don't need to fly a drone over your house or my house. We know for sure that we're being monitored. I mean, that's the whole thing about the surveillance state. And this isn't internet's, apocrypha, or so. This isn't something that people are making. We know this is happening. I mean, the government's finally had to, even after they said they weren't doing it, they are doing it.
We're supplying them with their. We're developing the dossier on ourselves here every night at 7 o'clock. So
well, exactly right. So it's all out there.
Yes.
Ultimate transparency. But you've heard recently where Mike was telling us about how they're saying, well, the biggest threat to America is not foreign fighters, and it's not they're not calling them Islamic fundamentalists. They're calling them bad boys of something.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's us. It's homegrown domestic terrorists. So do you have any clue about if they don't have good internet and sometimes unreliable phone services out there in the hinterland? Well, in Josephine County, what's better than having something that's flying around for hours, intercepting all of your communications? You don't have any communications. I got it, but the government at the moment is a little bit paranoid about you. They are. I used to work with a lot of those guys. That was bad when I left. It's 10 times worse now, and it's increasing. Billions and billions of phone calls. McDonald's, billions and billions served. Well, that's all over, buddy. It's billions and billions intercepted. This is no kidding.
Yeah.
It's not a joke.
We learned since the big Snowden dump that they basically have, if they want to bring up any phone conversation that's happened in the last probably 10 years, they can do it.
But the point really isn't, oh, they're monitoring me constantly. They could potentially be monitoring us. But no, the real point is they're storing it.
Yes, so they have a record.
Yes, and so sometime in the future, someone that doesn't like you says something to the government or tries to make a deal.
Right, but we started out talking about the commissioners in CAJO, and now this is the Art Bell program.
Okay, all right. Well, the reason I'm saying this is there is some reason to be a little concerned. Now, we've got a bunch of clips from CAJO. This is going to be fun, and we're going to play back the clips, and then we're going to laugh about them. I mean, then we're going to analyze them very seriously. Go ahead, Mike. Play the first one, please.
North Valley Industrial Park, which is really Commissioner Walker's shining star and contribution to the county. That's coming along. Pardon me, that's coming along, and really the future is quite clear and promising regarding that.
It's so bright, he has to wear shades.
The future is not quite clear. If you guys remember this thing at the industrial park at North Valley in Merlin, Merlin. First they said, well, we've got to have this system out there because it's a state rest stop. Really? A state rest stop? Oh, but then that disappeared. They're not going to be a state rest stop. Well, we need to have it out there because of Paradise Ranch. That was actually first. No, we tried to tell them, don't sink all this money into Paradise Ranch. This is a bad idea from the beginning. No, but they wouldn't listen to us. They did it anyway. And then they were saying, oh, well, it's the school out there. The school needs it. They need it. And Cheryl went to the Infrastructure Finance Authority saying, oh, they're totally on board with it. They're not on board with this. Don't tell the Infrastructure Finance Authority that the school is totally on board with it, because they're not. Now, what is she going to do when she goes back to them? She's already starting to get feedback from them saying, are they really on board? Well, part of the reason that the school board knows what she's saying is because we've been telling them.
Right. Well, let me ask you, though. So why is it relevant whether or not the school is on board with this sewage project?
Because the way it works right now is everybody pumps their sewage up to the school, and the sewage is processed at the school, and then it comes back to you in little cups that look like they're chocolate desserts.
So are they using child labor to process this sewage?
Yes,
that's what I want to know.
Right. Yes, that's why the students are there. You think they're going there for an education? No, listen. The future is quite clear. The future is not quite clear. The future might be a lot of things, but clear it's not. So I guess the idea, this is one of my favorite quotes from Keith Hick. If you keep repeating, it's positive, the future is clear, and it's promising, and what's the matter with you? I guess he figures if you keep just saying that the future will appear to you to be quite clear, but the future is anything but clear out there. Though their rates are going to go up like between, as they've confessed, between 5 and 10 times. That's not a clear future. It may be a lot of things. It could end up being a happy project. We might end up with a bunch of things, but the future is not clear. So don't tell us the future is clear. Just be honest.
Well, wait a minute. Well, you know, in cut number 2 here, the saga continues.
The North Valley Industrial Park is being developed with a coordination that will facilitate with the airport being developed, and Larry Graves has done a masterful job there. That's expanding. So there's a coordinated whole that is taking place and moving in step, not in a hop, skip, and a jump kind of a thing.
I love the coordinated hole. Okay, all right. No, we're making a little bit of fun. We know what he meant by a coordinated hole. It's classic Keith Hick. Look, Larry Graves has done a masterful job out there. He's done a masterful. The people at the Ivy Airport, the ones that Simon Hare brought in, and biggest contributor and all that, they haven't paid any rent. They haven't done anything out there. And Larry Graves, as you recall, Larry Graves was telling everybody that he's vetted them. He's vetted them. And they've turned over power to approve a lot of this to Larry Graves. Larry Graves, the guy that when somebody came in and he said, Larry, I think I'm paying too much rent here. And Larry Graves started, and I've listened to the recording. And the guy was a sweetheart. And Larry goes, you're trying to F me, and you're Fing this and F that. Hey, who do you think you are? Don't talk like that to a regular person.
Part of the problem that I have with all of this is that, Keith and, really the rest of the board is making this assessment that Larry Graves has done a masterful job. And what are your qualifications for judging that? I believe they're taking his word for most of that. And, other people are saying nice things about this guy who probably work for him or around him or are beholden to him for a decent rate on their hangar or something like that. This is part of the problem that, we take people in off the street and we don't even give them the slightest bit of education, say, how to negotiate a contract.
Oh,
before we put them in the job of negotiating a contract. And then
let's be fair here. Now, it may be that the commissioner says he's doing a masterful job. It may be that we say, no, it doesn't look like he is. So how do you know who's right? Maybe we're full of beans. Often are, probably. But the thing is that when he says, now I've completely vetted these guys, and they're really legit, and then it turns out, when it comes down to it, he comes in and makes a quiet report to them, well, they haven't paid their rent at all at any time, and it looks like they're not going to in the near future. Wait a minute. We said it didn't feel right. And it doesn't feel right. Now, we're going a lot of it by feelings because we're not getting all the information. But when you talk with the guys and they hang up on you, or when you ask them a question and they say, I think I'm going to move to Idaho, wait, these are warning signs.
Yeah, there's your emotional feedback to give you the feelings that we're talking about here. Is that, you know what? If you're legit and somebody's asking you some questions, and the county that you're in is about to vote on approval of some hugely important to your company proposal, you don't hang up on the people. I mean, there's clearly an issue with that. Now, listen, I have dealt with plenty of people who, were conspiracy theorists and are out of their mind and whatever, and those people, you just nod, you go, yes, oh, yeah, that's really interesting. And then you move on from that as fast as you can. Well, even if, so if he's legit and these women come in and sound like that to him, you be nice and you answer their questions as best as possible. Good PR person does that, and you move along. But they didn't do that.
No, they didn't.
He basically became hostile
Yeah, so
And
what's that hostility about, buddy?
yeah, what
You know,
is it?
you've got to
Well,
exist in a community that's going to be giving their trust to the commissioners. Really, how's that worked out for you so far?
yeah.
Or not give their trust to him. And already Simon's starting off on a negative in that you're his biggest contributor, and he says it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. What the heck does that mean? It doesn't matter. What has he done in the past? Why are you saying it doesn't matter what he's done in the past? All right.
Yeah, yeah. What does he know that we don't?
Right.
Anyway, okay. So let's see here.
Both positive signs for positive development.
Yes,
I love
that's
this
right.
Jack Benson.
With the development of the North Valley Industrial Park and the expansion at the airport, both positive signs for positive development here within Josephine County. Are we looking at someone to do the recruiting? Where do we stand with going out and finding businesses to really take advantage of it?
Yeah.
Now, so if you're not getting the point, everybody, just so that you know, this thing at the airport, which looks really bad and getting worse, I mean, mathematically, it's just true. They're not doing anything. They said they would, and they haven't. And this thing over at the...
At least give us some kind of a progress report or something.
Right. Well, we got one. I got one. I was sitting in on the meeting. You don't get to know about this unless I tell you about it. Well, sorry, but you know what I mean. I mean, I'm sitting there listening to all this, and Larry Graves comes in, and he's kind of like this. He's usually like, oh, da, da, da. But now he's like, well, you know, they haven't really paid it. And it's amazing how their voice drops when they are saying something they don't want everybody to know. Like, but we just turn the volume up the best that we can, and then eliminate all the little gremlins in the background.
We have software to, you know, weed this out. You cannot escape.
Well, what we do is we use little moles that sneak around and do lesser services in the background. The IT guys, you know, we're bringing in high-tech workers, and then we're denigrating them at every possible opportunity because we're high-tech workers. So anyway. These are both positive signs for positive development. In case you don't know that, that's going to be now the new banner over the street, so that every possible thing that's not working it's like Arbeit macht frei. I mean, just as long as you go ahead and declare that this is a great success, why, I'm declaring success right here. You know, it doesn't matter what you've said in the past. We'll never trade arms for hostages. The NSA is not investigating everything you say and do. Read my lips, no new text. You just keep saying stuff. You know, I did not have sex with that woman. You know, yeah, right. You know, and I've made up with Doug Deacon. Sure, you just keep saying that, buddy.
Yes, that's right. Oh, and speaking, you know, along in those line of whoppers, here's one from Cheryl.
In our county, we've seen a growth in manufacturing in our community, and of course, a lot of that's traded sector. So,
and what is exactly traded sector?
Traded sector means they actually trade outside the community. They bring outside money in. They don't rely on a market within the county. So they are either manufacture or assemble or do something that is sold outside the county.
So, you know, apparently there's a whole bunch of manufacturing that's moved in the last, you know, couple of years that I guess I was not aware of.
As Cheryl put it one time, she said, you know, I'm really tired of these people who are driving up and down inside Grants Pass and looking around and seeing what they perceive as shuttered windows and businesses that have gone out of business. And what's the matter with people? That's an illusion. Oh, that's right. That's what she said. And don't you realize there's a tremendous amount of growth that's happening in this county? What they think, and Keith says this all the time. And this is one of the things that kind of grates on us a little bit, and it doesn't work very well for us anyway, for Mike and myself, and probably for you, if you just keep saying it's positive, it's positive, it's positive. If Rotary Radio tells you it's positive, if the Courier doesn't print things that are negative, then maybe the people will start believing it's positive. Now, that will it make it positive? No, but it'll get them off the backs of the commissioners who aren't doing positive things.
You know, I wonder if the saying traded sector and explaining what that is, that these are things that are manufactured here, but they're sold outside the county, that perhaps is to explain the fact that you aren't seeing this stuff. Because there's no new product for me to buy anywhere, so I don't understand. Where's all this manufacturing?
It's very much like when Jim Riddle left office. I mean, we've talked about Jim Riddle. The Courier wrote this beautiful article about him on the front page. Many of his accomplishments were under the radar.
Yeah.
He's doing all these happy, positive things for the county, and you just don't understand because you're not following it the way the Courier is, and they have the key, the pulse of this community, and they know everything is awesome. What's the matter with you? Would you be part of the team?
See, this is the funny part. It was all under the radar. Well, you are the radar. You know,
that's very good, Mike. Yes, that's quite right.
Why is this happening under the radar? Because you aren't doing your job. That's why.
Right. Many of his accomplishments were under the radar. Really. And for those of you who think that we're in any kind of economic problem, well, one thing, you can just look at the county and see how they're spending money left and right. They're hiring people. They're giving out raises. That every time they ask, they say, oh, that's within the budget. So we have a magical budget, first of all. Second, we know from Bill Hunker that the crime rate's going down. Okay, we know that to be the case. Those are the statistics, the real statistics, not what the sheriff told us, which he had to later admit was false. He did admit it was false. Whether you like the guy or not, he did admit that he'd given us false details. Now, if you just keep that in mind, and keep in mind that if you have a positive attitude, everything is possible, then you're going to buy whatever it is that they feed you a spoonful of every morning. Just need to be uninformed. Go ahead with the next wonderful clip. No, you don't.
Development going on out of the North Valley Industrial Park and out at the airport, both rising stars in Josephine County.
Thank you for that, Chuck Benson. Objective journalist. Lots of development going on out in the North Valley Industrial Park. Do you think that there's lots of development going on at Chuck Benson, do you think there's lots of development going on at the North Valley Industrial Park?
I think that's the problem that is cited most often, is that there isn't development going on.
So why is Chuck Benson telling his radio audience that there's lots of? He didn't equivocate. He didn't say there's the potential or that we're targeting development.
Right.
There's lots of development out at the, and the idea, I guess the idea is that they just tell you this stuff relentless. Look, sorry to be relentlessly negative. Sorry. But if they just keep telling you this relentlessly positive stuff, that you might start believing it, and the power of belief will be just enough to make us all prosperous, and then they can tax us into prosperity.
Right. So just for clarity, just for the sake of clarity, the North Valley Industrial Park, I mean, the problem with it is it's not really taking off.
No,
right? I mean, people aren't moving into this area and setting up shop, and that's the problem, right? And
well, and the other problem,
the
other problem is badcounty.com, to put a comedic touch on it, where Cheryl Walker has announced as the economic development czarina for our county that the reason that we're not prospering is because badcounty.com keeps telling people the truth.
Right. So in addition to people not desiring to move to this North Valley Industrial Park, there's also the problem with the sewage thing. In other words, their growth is going to be somewhat limited because of the lack of the development of this the sewer project. Is that true, or am I off base?
All right, it's in exactly the same proportion. Some of you know about the roads. I'm really bad at the road stuff, but when you come across the bridge and you try to make a left turn onto M Street to go, and the traffic is super increasing there, and many times that whole main thoroughfare coming through town is stopped because not enough people can get around that corner. That might be actually called a failing intersection, because every night at a certain time it's just totally backed up and it's going all the way out to, you know, what, Cave Junction? Probably not.
Oh,
okay.
No, I'll tell you exactly where it goes to. Allen Creek. Because right after I was in town here this evening, I hit that log jam that you're talking about, where you're almost in stop-and-go traffic until you get out there to basically Allen Creek, and then it opens up quite a bit. However, let's put things into perspective a little bit, because I used to commute in the Bay Area every single day, and it was 2 hours each way, and sometimes 4 or 5 hours coming home or something if I happened to hit the wrong situation or a jackknife big rig or something. So I'm very happy with the traffic situation in Grants Pass.
All right, but my point was my point, which I wasn't making very well, was supposed to be that this exit 61 there at Merlin, into Merlin, come on, that it's it's already a failed intersection, as Simon has said. No, it's not. No, it's not. Traffic is every day. Traffic backs up onto the highway. No, it doesn't. This is
it doesn't.
Big lie.
It doesn't, and you can't compare that intersection to that one at 6th and M Street. No way.
No, the one at 6th and M is horrible. The one out at the one out at Merlin, that's nothing. And
Yes.
most of that was solved by having a stop sign, just an inexpensive stop sign suggested by Sandy Casanelli. It solved almost the entire problem, and there really wasn't a problem. But they'll have you believe that they don't put a huge cloverleaf interchange, international interchange. No.
Well, you know why they're talking about that? Because they can go get that money somewhere else.
Yeah, except it comes from us.
Yes.
And other things that need to be done are not getting done.
It does, but you know what? They're going to shoot that money out of a cannon somewhere else if they don't.
How about repairing our bridges? We've got bridges here that are falling apart. They really are falling apart. This is a serious problem.
Yes, but you know what? Listen, if it hasn't become abundantly clear to most everybody already, they're not interested in doing some low-profile bridge out in Williams somewhere. They're interested in doing something that everybody sees every day, and they go, "Look at, I did that."
You know that's when the first minor tremor hits, and we're completely cut off at I-5 and these bridges, and we're cut off from the hospital because these are older bridges. And when the courthouse that was built 100 years ago falls down around their ears, okay? Hopefully with the commissioners inside, haha. I'll be there with the videotape, and I'll tape it and then put it out to you because I'm going to be there, okay? But when this happens, somebody might say, why the heck are they building some interchange to nowhere when they weren't repairing their bridges? That's safety, and the county's supposed to be involved in keeping us safe, not just their jobs safe.
Right. Duly noted.
Next clip.
My proposal would be to provide funding to the revolving loan fund at the rate of $25,000 per quarter, and if they don't use all the $25,000, of course, we don't give them another $25,000 the next quarter. But that to hold in their loan fund because they have a loan board. They actually have people have to make an application. The loan board evaluates those applications for viability and repayment ability. And then the loans are awarded based on that, and then they service those loans. And my proposal would be able to provide that money to our small businesses here in Josephine County on a very orderly and organized type of basis where they actually have to show financial viability.
Now, she's talking about, remember when the commissioner said, oh, sorry to bring this up again, 214 full-time family wage jobs were going to be created because they built a wheelchair ramp at a park, at a state park, with our money. These are the same people, and they've already given them twice as much money. And now what she wants to do on a orderly and organized type of basis where it's going to be actually have to show financial viability. This is the county commissioners, everybody. They're prime example of fiscal viability and orderly and organized is the same people that cheated us, and they helped them with 214 full-time family wage jobs. That's proven viability. These people are insane.
Well, and really what you can expect here is crony capitalism.
Brother.
What's going to take place is they're going to be handing out loans to their friends, or they're going to pick who's good and who's not. And this is listen. Anytime government tries to involve itself in tweaking with the mechanics of the economy to try to make it work, instead of just getting the hell out of the way and letting people do what their what their desire tells them to do, then you're going to get some well, it's going to be kind of clustered.
Oh, that kind of cluster. Listen, I understand in general how people might say, well, these guys sound like they don't like government. I'm really not quite there. But let me read to you again from my notes here exactly what it was she said. Now, keep in mind, whatever you feel about building a wheelchair ramp out in State Park and IV, and how that's going to be guaranteed to give us up to 214 full-time family wage jobs after the wheelchair ramp is built. That's the kind of thinking that went into us, and that's what the commissioners agreed to. So that shows you where their fiscal responsibility is. Here's exactly what she said. Provide money on a very orderly and organized type of basis where they actually have to show financial viability. And Cheryl's in charge of economic development funds.
Mm-hmm.
What more do you need to know? This is why we're critical. Really?
And let me clarify for a second.
Ooh, clarify. I hate clarify.
So people, aren't thinking that. I don't hate government. I just understand human nature. And when you throw money at people and say, "Oh, here you go, you get to spend this any way you think is good," then it brings out the worst in people, and they do bad things and they make bad decisions. And they need to be watched very, very carefully. And I would say that even if I'm talking about myself in that position.
I do not want to give them more money through the levy. They will get more money if this levy passes. I don't want to give them any more money. None. Zero.
Listen, this is
extra. Okay. Of course we want to have law enforcement, but I don't want them getting 10% skimmed off the top. No.
And listen, this is why the Constitution is set up the way it is. It's supposed to provide ultimate accountability, and that's what a free press is about too. It's holding government accountable. Right. And that really is supposed to. They really thought of that as being the core function of the press, is being a watchdog on government. Now, show me how that's happening in this county.
Here you go, Chuck Benson from KJO Radio. Most stools, you wouldn't sit on them if they didn't have at least 3 legs. Well, we got the Courier, broken. We've got KJO Radio. Oh, I need to do them. I won't leave the middle one up. KJO Radio, broken. And then we've got us. That's it. Yeah. That's all that there is. And when you hear this guy, Chuck Benson from Rotary KJO Radio, saying how wonderful everything is, boy, that's really terrific at what they're doing out there. Really, no, it's not. It's questionable. Ask the questions. The next one is about Manatron, and we've talked about Manatron a little bit, and they're going to be doing this. They're going to be talking about this tomorrow, putting the best possible face on it. Go ahead and play the Manatron clip. This is great.
This is something that has been ongoing for a very long time. I think, in fact, it was probably going on before Keith or I, either one, was on the board. And it had to do with a contract that was entered into probably several years ago. And the company had entered into an agreement promising certain types of performance. And then they changed their type of, and it has to do with software. And they changed the type of programs that they were supposed to be providing, and it's ended up being something that's not really compatible with what we have in our system. So this is almost a procedural type of thing, because they can't perform and it's not providing the service, so we're going to be terminating that arrangement.
You know what the funny thing about this is that if they just said, you remember the $600,000 software Fandango, everybody would know what you're talking about. But when they talk about it like this, it's very obscure, and people go, well, what are they talking about?
Is any part of what she
software?
said? No. A software company that stops making software that works? Really? Is this what's happened?
Yes, but listen. Okay, so you've got, say, Microsoft Word, okay? People have it, and it's 10 years old or 15 years old, and it still works, okay? What happened is the product was no good to begin with. It's not that it's gone bad. It's that it never worked to begin with. It didn't have what was needed, and they're just coming to this now. They've probably been coming to it for a while after they've spent, hundreds of thousands, literally hundreds of thousands.
That's right.
Dollars on it, and now they're just figuring it out. No, this is incompetence.
And we warned them. We said, please, we're on the financial cliff. Remember, you keep telling us this. We're hanging on by our fingernails. Why are we the early adopters of an unproven piece of software? Oh, because it's so expensive. That's not a good recommendation. We can't afford to be the first adopters of this.
One of the things that I did a lot of, it's a little, I'm proud of this. I set up a radio network myself. My boss told me, I was a producer, and he said, "Hey, listen, we're gonna build a radio network here, and we don't know nothing about it. Why don't you do that?" and by the way, you have to have it done in a couple of months. And from not knowing anything, well, I went out and I shopped around. I found the most economical way of doing it, and I pride myself on, I delivered on a budget, man. I mean, it was unbelievable how well I did in saving money in setting that thing up. So why they don't have somebody like me, and I'm not suggesting myself, I'm suggesting somebody doing that same task, shopping around for software that does what is needed in the county at a bargain price. I know that it's out there. I know for a fact that it's out there. So they didn't do this because they're lazy and they're unqualified at their jobs, and they don't care because it's not their money.
It's not true that everybody in government everywhere is doing a bad job. It's not true. Except maybe in Europe. It's a joke. It's just not true. But it is true that this time, as I've said before, we've ended up with, just like one of those one-armed bandits, clunk, 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 it's 3 lemons. I mean, that has to happen eventually, just like I guess you have to end up with 3 plums. At some point, if you keep pulling the arm often enough, you're going to end up with the jackpot. We're in a jackpot now, but not the kind we were talking about. Play the next clip, would you please?
Is it a money-saving situation, too, or will this just go to another service to provide those?
We have another provider, and I think it does provide some savings, but I don't know that number.
No, we don't!
It will be a contract that has to be rebid,
yeah.
And everybody accepted on. I mean, Manitron would be able to rebid on it, but it would also open
They will?
Companies. As you can well imagine, electronics, especially computer electronics, it changes almost daily.
Mm-hmm.
And
what?
So you have one company that might do a very fine job.
I don't remember you being on this program, Dale.
Now is archaic in that sense, and so it's just a matter of trying to keep up. But the contract will most likely be rebid and relet.
All right, and this really affects what? The assessor and the treasurer's office and the mapping that's been going on,
right.
all those systems having to do with computer.
Right, it's mostly internal functions. And I would just like to say, too, on the programs that we are putting in place now, I know last week, was it John? John McCafferty made a presentation at our board last week briefly that talked about how the programs we're getting now is going to have more public access, which is what we're looking for. We're looking for more public access so people can go on and look up their own property or look up the mapping themselves.
More transparency and less hands-on work for
absolutely,
clerks.
absolutely,
okay.
Yes.
All right, great.
Now, wait a minute. She just said to us, she just told everybody that we already have another. No, we don't. No, we don't. And I checked this with Wally Hicks. No, we don't. We don't have. Well, she just told us that we have another company, and then Keith just said we're going to put it out for bids. Having another company and putting out for bids, no. The original company was the same people.
Yes, well, the incompetence continues.
Why did she just tell us that we have another company already? And what's this from Chuck Benson? Instead of asking a serious question, he says, more transparency and less hands-on work for you.
Oh, yeah,
Chuck!
That sounds good. Why? You have to ask yourself, why is Chuck and whoever else is
Carl Wilson
that is dealing with the county, why are they not asking probing questions? Why do they not want to get down to the nitty-gritty? Could it be that they're worried about having their access to these guys cut off or something like that? I mean, there has to be some explanation for it. Are they just so ideologically tied to these people? It can't be, because we've had vacillations of political ideology in these offices before. So this has to be just I'm going to kiss the rear end of government, regardless of who's I'm hedging my bets.
Well, this is the basis of the argument that I had with the Democrat Party. Well, we like that Dave Toller because he's so unlike the others. Now, wait a minute. If Dave Toller is so unlike the others, just look at it mathematically. Why does he always vote along with the others? Well, I don't like that kind of question. No kidding, you don't like it. The only person that wasn't part of the Go Along to Get Along program in a decade was Sandy Casanelli, and you see what happened to her. All she suggested, and she was called Casanoli, although looking at it mathematically afterwards, she only voted no 10% of the time. That's intolerable. She's Casanoli. 10% of the 90% of the time she said yes.
Yeah.
So it is to say that we have a program that will be more transparent. That's also false. We don't have a program. And so it can't be more transparent. She's just told you 2 lies in practically 1 sentence. We already have, and no, we don't. And this Manatron gets to rebid? Really? They've not learned a lesson.
Well, and there's more to come on this in the next clip.
Simon Hare is absent today, but he's, I understand, still working.
Oh, yes.
Yes, he's back in Washington, D.C., and communicating with all of the different legislators, and he has appointments to talk to the various departments and various groups on basically on lumber, O&C issues, and as he can make the rounds, he is familiar with the territory, so to speak. So he was looking forward to it, and we are looking forward to hearing reports on how things have gone.
All right. Can he loosen the purse strings back there?
Well,
any sign of any light at the end of the tunnel?
I don't know that he could. I don't think any of us can at the current situation. But what he is doing is he's trying to find out who would be supportive of the legislation that's been produced at the SRS renewal type of thing, and looking at some of the other legislation that has been introduced over time to see if life can be breathed back into that and who's going to be supporting it. So there's a lot of new people in Congress back there, and I think he's trying to build the relationships and get a lay of the land for us.
Oh, all right. Well, we know that the entire Oregon legislative delegation back there has reintroduced that SRS legislation, but it seems to be stalled. Is that correct?
Yes, it hasn't grown legs yet.
All right.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. Well, has any chance of anything else growing legs here in the last minute or two here? What are we going to talk about next half hour?
Depending what people call in and ask questions on or make comments on, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
But yet, on the other hand, is there a chance of something happening? There's always a chance of something happening. Is there a realistic chance, or is it just a pie-in-the-sky chance? And I think right now it's more of a pie-in-the-sky chance for any monies to be coming that we have not already looked at and have dealt with in the sense of saying this needs to be factored in. I mean, we are going to be beginning our budgeting system next month, and that doesn't allow a whole lot of time for this magic goose to fly in and drop an egg.
So
awesome.
They're always so positive. So why is Keith Heck saying, I think this is pie in the sky? Because the only solution is relentless from these commissioners is for you to raise your property taxes and give them 10% of your money.
Well, and you notice when they're talking about Simon Hare being back in Washington, D.C., they go, no, they're not going to free up any money. And there's really no chance of that.
Why is he there?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, listen. In my book here, and perhaps there's some stuff that clearly there's some stuff that I don't know about the way this whole thing works. But I think the problem is people are trying to go at this in the way that things work, and the only way that you're going to get something done is if you do something outside the way things normally work. And personally, I would get back there and I would get with some of these people and go, the federal government is ripping us off. They're ripping our county off, and they have the boot on the neck of our economy, and our people are dying underneath this thing here. So
he's not going to say that. He'll never say that.
I understand, but yes, but here's the thing: is that this is why you got to say, hey, listen, you guys are killing us, and it's your fault. You're in violation. This is your agreement, and you're not holding up your end. What are you going to do about it? That's how you